All right, let's have a quick conversation about addition subtraction. We're going to start with four basic facts that are worth knowing. First one is 1 minus 1. Do you know that one? Yeah, I'll bet you do. It's 0. This next one might trip you up a little bit. It's negative 1 plus 1. But notice that really it's the same thing as 1 minus 1. We have a negative value and a positive value, and they're opposites. A negative value and a positive value, they're opposites. So again, we have 0. 1 plus 1, they're not opposites, so they're going to add up to 2. And negative 1 minus 1, again, they are not opposites. They're both negative. They're going to add up to negative 2. Right. Now, in general, when we think about addition subtraction, I'd like to change the way we think about this. So in the past, we might have read this as 5 plus 3. And we'll still say 5 plus 3, but I'd like to be able to think about this in terms of combining two values, where each value has a sign. So for this first one, what I'm combining is this positive 5 and this positive 3. I can think of that 3 as being part, or that positive sign as being part of the 3. So here I'm combining positive 5 and positive 3. We should probably write that out as a word. 3. Right? The next one, we might in the past have thought about this as 5 minus 3, and we might still read it that way, and there's still value in thinking about it that way. But for now, I want us to try to adjust the way we wrap our brains around this, and I want us to say that this is the same thing as 5 combined with a negative 3. So instead of reading this minus sign as a minus sign, let's read it as a negative sign that belongs to the 3. So we've got, again, a positive 5, and we're combining that with a negative 3. Let's peek at this next one. The next one, negative 3 plus 5. This is where we start to get a little bit trickier for some of us. But first, let's just talk about what's happening here. We're combining this first number, which is a 3, right? And it has a negative sign in front of it, so we'll think about it as a negative 3. And the second one has a positive sign in front of it, so we'll think about this one being a positive 5. Now, already, this new way to think about this is yielding some useful results. What two values are we combining on this second example? It's a positive 5 and a negative 3. And no one has problems usually with 5 minus 3. But if you look at the third example, it's the same two numbers. We're still combining a positive 5 and a negative 3. It turns out that 5 minus 3 has the same value as negative 3 plus 5. You probably recognize pretty easily that 5 minus 3 is positive 2. You should then be able to recognize it, since this is the same thing, it's also positive 2. But let's take another way to look at this value, negative 3 plus 5. This is my favorite metaphor for thinking about addition subtraction. And it's a little bit more violent than it should be, but oh well, that's life. Here's one way to think about how we can combine negative 3 and positive 5. I like to think of these two numbers as being sort of two groups of army people or something like that, where we've got 3 people on this side and 5 people in this group. And then the question is, which team essentially does each of these groups play for? To mix the metaphor a little bit. We've got this 3, which is 3 what? 3 negatives or 3 positives? Right, it's 3 negatives. And the 5 is 5 positives, right? So what's going to happen in this metaphor is we've got the 3 negative guys that show up. Then on the other side of the battlefield, we've got the 5 positive guys. Now, because this is a school battlefield, we won't have any weapons here. Instead, what's going to happen is someone's going to yell, "Go!" And these guys from over here are going to start running forward. And these guys from over here are going to start running forward. And what's going to happen in the middle is these negative guys are going to run into these positive guys. So this guy, right? And what happens when a negative 1 runs into a positive 1? Well, we saw that up here. When a negative 1 runs into a positive 1, they make 0. So effectively, these guys take each other out. And these guys take each other out. And these guys take each other out. And then the question just becomes this. Who's going to win this battle? Well, it's going to be the positives. How many of them will be left alive? 2. So then the answer to negative 3 plus 5 is positive 2. Let's do another example just real quick here. We'll do 3 minus 5, which is this next problem that we have down here. For 3 minus 5, we've got the first group shows up, 3 positive guys. This 5, are they playing for the negative team or the positive team? Well, in this case, they're playing for the negative team. We see this minus 5 as a negative 5. So when they start running into each other, right, these guys take each other out, these guys take each other out, these guys take each other out. Who wins? It's the negative side. And how many do they win by? They win by 2. So 3 minus 5 is negative 2, whereas negative 3 plus 5 was positive 2. Most of us probably aren't bothered by 3 plus 5. That's no big deal, right? That's just an 8 for us. But what about negative 3 minus 5? Does this metaphor still work? Well, it turns out it does. Here's how we think about it, right? We have negative 3 minus 5. The 3 negative guys show up. Then 5 more, let's see, who do these guys play for? They play for the negative team as well, so 5 negative guys show up. When someone yells go and they all run towards the middle, they get to the middle and they go, hey, wait a minute, pause. We're all on the same team. We don't need to fight. Okay, we're not going to run at each other. So no one knocks each other out. So who's going to win? Well, obviously here the negative team has to win because there are only negative players involved in the game. And how many are left alive? Well, all of these 3 and all of those 5. So it's 3 guys plus 5 more guys makes 8 guys. Negative 3 minus 5 is negative 8. Okay. So essentially what the thought process is what's the sign of the first value? What's the sign of the second value? Are they going to fight or get along? And then who wins, the positives or the negatives? And how many will be left? Okay. So in negative 5 plus 3, who's going to win? Well, there are more negative guys, so the negative team is going to win. How many will be left alive? Well, these 3 positive guys will take out 3 of the negative guys, leaving us with just 2 negative guys left. On this next one, we've got a positive 5 and a negative 3, although you can also think about this one as just plain old-fashioned 5 minus 3. But using this new metaphor, the positives team is going to win because there are more positives, and 3 of them are going to get taken out, so there will be 2 left. Right? 5 plus 3 is the same thing as 3 plus 5. That shouldn't bother us. It's still being 8. And again on this last one, 5 negative guys show up, 3 more negative guys show up. Everyone's a negative person, so they all get along, so no one fights each other off. The negative team wins because no one else shows up, and there are 8 of them left. Think for a second and write down an answer before going to the next video of how you can tell whether an addition subtraction will result in a positive or a negative value.